Welcome to the Fun Astrology and Merriman Market Analyst Saturday Financial Podcast. I'm Thomas Miller. Thank you so much for joining us. This is, of course, the free weekly newsletter published every weekend on MMAcycles.com by financial analyst and astrologer Ray Merriman. This is being recorded on July 27th for the market week ahead, beginning July 29th on Monday. First of all, a news story to get us started. The Commerce Department said Friday its personal consumption expenditures inflation gauge rose 2.5% in June compared to a year earlier, slowing from its 2.6% pace in May. On the CME's FedWatch tool, which uses Fed funds data to estimate the price of rate moves, the odds of remaining unchanged next week are 93%, while the odds of a 25 basis point cut in September are 90%. Meanwhile, pundits have called for a cut already next week in order to avoid an undesired cooling of the economy. Now, jumping right into Ray's commentary for this week, he says, "Greetings from Amsterdam, where I arrived last night for the first stage of my 2-month European tour that will culminate with the MMA Investment Retreat September 19th through 22nd in beautiful Lake Bled, Slovenia. It was a stunning week in politics and the financial markets as we navigate between the Mars-Uranus-Algol conjunction of July 12th through the 15th, and the dual T-squares surrounding August 19th, when Mars and Jupiter will be squared by Venus in opposition to Saturn. During that same week, the full moon will square Uranus. The August 19th geocosmic period indicates a very chaotic time, and it just happens to coincide with the Democratic Convention. But the chaos of the convention may have been reduced considerably this week with the appointment of Kamala Harris as the likely candidate following President Joe Biden's decision to finally step down. The possibility was discussed in this column 3 weeks ago. Still, I will elaborate more on this in this week's short-term Geocosmics section, since her probable nomination has created a major buzz, a sense of excitement throughout the world. The election forecast is much closer now with the Democrats re-energized. Republicans are also re-energized following the near assassination of their leader, Donald Trump. The only ones not tremendously re-energized are the independents. They are still the majority, and they will break this election one way or another. They still do not have what they perceive as a moderate candidate representing a moderate platform. But back to the markets for now. Following their highs, or secondary highs, of the week surrounding the Mars-Uranus-Algol conjunction of July 12th through 15th, plus or minus 1 week, many global stock indices continued their hard decline into midweek before starting powerful rallies to the end of the week. In Japan, for instance, the Nikkei index had plunged 11 1/3% from its all-time high of 41,426 on July 12th to a low of 37,611 on Friday. The tech-heavy Nasdaq declined 10% between its all-time high of July 11th and the low on July 26th. Our target had been between a 15 to 26% decline from a 4-year cycle crest, expecting that between August and November, so we captured a good chunk of that on this first dive. And now begins the secondary rally as we approach Mercury turning retrograde a week from Monday on August 5th. Will there be a second leg down? And if so, how much from this rally? Gold, and especially silver, took a deep dive last week. Gold peaked at $24.8840 on July 17th, which was close enough to our July 12th through the 15th geocosmic critical reversal date. But by Thursday, July 26th, it had touched $23.5190, and silver's break was more painful, falling from a secondary high of $32.01 on July 11th to a low of $27.55 on July 26th, a loss of nearly 14% in 1 week. However, Bitcoin continued to support our bullish call given recently, as it tested our 59,000 to 62,000 support zone on its pullback to 63,395 on Thursday and then rallied as high as 68,166 the next day. Crude oil continued to struggle, falling to the $76 area on Thursday, July 26th. It is still in a time band for a major cycle low, but far off of the $85 mark it needs to exceed in order to change its pattern to bullish. And now, the short-term Geocosmics. An article published in Thursday's Wall Street Journal by Peggy Noonan, The Kamala Harris Surprise. She says, I had long thought Kamala Harris could not beat Donald Trump. That's wrong. She can. But beyond that, something's happening. Ms. Harris has not, in 5 years on the national stage, shown competence. She is showing it now, and that is big news. Her rollout this week demonstrated talent and hinted she may be a real political athlete. She was striking and strong in this week's speeches in Milwaukee and Houston. She knows how to act a speech. When she is scripted, she is good. End quote. And here is an excerpt from a book, The End of Race Politics, Arguments for a Colorblind America, by Coleman Hughes. Taken to their logical endpoints, the ideas that I encountered first at the POC conference, or the Power of Collaboration conference, and then Columbia University, paved the way to a political and social hellscape where skin color, a meaningless trait, is given supreme importance. They have infected all of our key institutions, government, education, and media. End quote. Now, Ray's thoughts in this section. He says President Biden finally did the nation and his party a favor by withdrawing his candidacy for the 2024 presidential election race. As mentioned over the past several weeks following the disastrous debate of June 27th, it was only going to get harder and harder for his party, family, and the nation to stay on after it became evident that he was no longer physically or even cognitively capable of carrying his party to victory in November. The tragedy is how hard the party and mainstream media tried to cover for him when his decline was so apparent to everyone who had watched him over the past several months. But now the Democrats have a younger, more vibrant, and articulate candidate in Vice President Kamala Harris to offer to voters, and the race immediately becomes more competitive. Although this is a more financially based column, it's important to pay attention to politics, especially this year, as the two parties have starkly different economic agendas that will affect financial markets in separate ways. For instance, history shows that a Republican president is likely to oversee both a record high in the U.S. stock market and a stock market crash exceeding 38%. A Democrat in the White House can also oversee stock market levels, though not as consistently as a Republican White House does. However, Democrats do not tend to be in office when the stock market declines more than 26%. Correlations are also present in the U.S. dollar, which tends to rise when Democrats are in control and fall when a Republican holds the highest office. It is also a running joke introduced in this column long ago and now used by the mainstream media that Democrats want to control our boardrooms and Republicans our bedrooms. However, one thing presidents of both parties have struggled with through the years is racial tensions. Although much progress has been made in race relations, there is still the unsettling belief that racism, and now neo-racism, underlies the great division in the nation. So one wonders, what effect will a female, black, and Indian candidate have on this issue in the United States? Will racial tensions increase, or will they recede, even be eliminated as the nation slowly continues its progress toward a colorblind America, and even a world where character and humanity matter and not the meaningless color of one's skin, as Martin Luther King once dreamed and inspired a whole generation to dream. Kamala Harris is no stranger to astrologers and astrology. Her birth time has long been known, which suggests that she or her family may have consulted an astrologer long ago. She has a remarkable planetary pattern in her natal chart, as described in the Forecast 2020 and 2021 books, which pointed out that she could one day run for and even become President of the U.S. She is born on October 20th, 1964, 9:28 p.m., Oakland, California. She has her natal sun in Libra, opposite moon in Aries, full moon, and both are in a harmonious aspect to her Gemini rising, with the moon's north node also rising. In fact, her ascendant node conjunction is very close to Donald Trump's natal Sun-Uranus conjunction, which is also opposite his natal moon. Both Trump and Harris were born under full moons, and both his Sun-Moon and her ascendant lunar north node will be highlighted by transiting Jupiter, good fortune, near Election Day. It's likely to be very close, and perhaps both will receive a record number of votes. I'll address these candidates more in this column as we go forward, but for now, I would suggest that astrologers focus on the debate of September 10th. It is my opinion that this debate may tilt the election in favor of one of the candidates. There will be a mutable T-square between the Sun, Moon, and Jupiter, activating Trump's natal Sun-Uranus opposite Moon and Harris's ascendant north node degrees. Transiting Uranus is also conjunct Harris's Jupiter and will square her Mars-Uranus opposition, while at the same time conjunct Trump's midheaven, so both will be lit. There are going to be more unexpected surprises. This is the promise of a prominent Uranus. Someone or both is likely to go over the top with exaggeration. It could be just as consequential as the June 27th debate, which ended President Biden's bid for a second term. At the same time, it led to the opening for Kamala Harris and the real start to the 2024 U.S. presidential election. The good thing is that the nation is alive and interested again, so let the good times roll. And that wraps up Ray's comments for a very busy week in politics and the markets. Wow, what a time to be alive, huh? Well, let's rest up and recharge and chill out the rest of the weekend. What do you say? Because we've got to hit it and gun it next week. We've got earnings reports, FOMC. It's going to be busy. So rest up. Have a great time. I'll see you back Monday for a full schedule of podcasts. Take care, and thanks for listening.